What's up, guys? How's it going? I'm back with another video, and this time, man, we're talking about Warframe. My camera's for some reason off. I really need to get a tripod. Anyway, enough about my problems. Man, Warframe. Oh my goodness. All right, so 10.0 Live happened, and my goodness, so much, so impressive. I want to get to the stuff that I was really interested in. But man, that Hydroid trailer, like, it's about time. I mean, it kind of sucks now that he's already been nerfed pretty hard and he's no longer the same as he used to be, but it's okay. He's still cool. He's still one of my top favorites. He's still number 2 in my book. He's literally my number 2 favorite Warframe, because he's mostly like Cervantes. If you've ever played Soul Blade or Soul Calibur, that's who he reminds me of. And I think they even said that. I think they said that once. But yeah, that right there, that reminds me completely of Soul Calibur, which is why I chuckled when I saw this, because I always think about when D Steve and D Scott were talking about they were talking about like Soul Calibur and Soul Legends, talking about like adding characters in that kind of resemble games that they used to play, and I'm like, Hydroid right here looks exactly like Cervantes. He just doesn't have his arms folded, which is what I thought he was going to do, because that's one of Cervantes' poses, one of his win positions, where his dual swords are in front of him, and he always like kind of has his arms folded. So I thought they were going to do that. That was going to be awesome. But 10.0 Live looked very interesting. Looked very, very interesting. A lot of things caught my eye, like the new community Warframe. I thought that was pretty cool. It's very creepy looking to me personally. Like, I get the concept. I like the powers. Just like the whole skeleton thing. Like, I don't want to. It's kind of so weird, like, to say spoil, but I don't want to spoil anything for people who haven't gotten there in the story yet. But just like how Warframes are made, seeing one that's like a skeleton being held together by the void is just it just, like, at first I was like, and then when it did that, I was like, like, just that just in my head, just thinking about that mission where you see how Excalibur Umbra was made, and it's just, woo, that was yeah. Anyway, but yeah, I think it's really cool. I like the anime powers. Like being able to steal people's weapons and having them float and shoot, and then the weapons scale with the weapons that you took from the enemies. I think that is very amazing. I'm loving that, actually. I always say whenever I talk about Star Wars that that Warframe is the best Star Wars game on the market, and it's like, this character not just uses the void but uses the force, because like if you can steal people's weapons and you have them like floating next to you, kind of like how Luke used to do in the books, how he used to use lightsabers and send them out. Well, I don't know if you guys are Star Wars fans, but in the books, when Luke got to a certain point, he would just send out a lightsaber using the force while he was in meditation to go fight a battle for him, or to go take down a bounty, or to go remove a threat. Like, it was so cool. Like, Luke was so powerful. But I know they do it in a lot of anime games where they have like, at least in games and in shows, where they have like one character that's like, that's like controlling swords, like psychologically or telepathically or something, or using their powers. And I think that's cool that there's a Warframe that finally does that. And the Warframe is cool overall. I really like it. I think, like, I would really jump into it. I like how they did it. And then it's, of course, using that whole new system that they were talking about, where you can like get powers from other Warframes. I thought that was freaking awesome. I don't really know what I would do with it. But I don't know. I don't really know what I would do with it. Cause just in general, I don't know. I think like how they said, like you can't do ultimates and you can't do signature moves that transfer. So that kind of is just like, so then if you can't do certain moves, and they said they're going to put out a list of all the moves that you can transfer to different warframes. I don't even know how far that is in this video. I'm curious as to what is available, because while there are a bunch of abilities for certain warframes that go unused, which is why if you've been playing as long as me, back in the old days, we had to equip our powers to our warframe. There were specific ability slots, and usually for most warframes 2 and 4, and like 2-4, 3-4, and 2-3 are always the most used powers. It's rarely, well, back in the day, it was rare that you would use 1 for anything, because it was usually just such a weak power that it was like, whatever. But since they're always revamping warframes and kind of like upgrading them, I kind of see it being a difficult thing to do this ability, because it's pretty cool. Like, I think it's pretty cool on how they've got it done, but at the same time, they're always revamping and overhauling warframes, so then lists would constantly be changing, and I don't want to invest. This is my fear. I don't want to invest in a warframe and customizing my warframe with another power from another warframe, and then that warframe gets changed and the power that I added to this collection is gone. I don't want, how is that going to happen? So if that move gets revamped later on and then it's no longer available to be transferred to other warframes, it's like, well, then that's not why I built my warframe. That's not why I made that slot. So that's kind of a difficult thing. The other thing I was wondering about, especially with the room, was what happened to the girl that was in the back. Like that room looked completely different. Like, I get that they're redoing the room and it's more infested, but what happened to the little girl that you saved that's like in the cryo tank and everything? Like, did she become the giant mouth creature? Like, what the heck is going on with that? Like, I need context. I need a lot of context, because that's kind of weird. Like this is all cool, don't get me wrong, and even the way like things happen, like there, like when they were walking around, you got this giant, well, I'm not gonna say it, but Little Shop of Horrors, I guess, and it's like there was a girl there. That room was completely different. Like, now I understand, like, I get how the room is going to be, but my question is, what happened to the little girl from that mission, and like her like little color pencil drawings or crayon drawings and stuff that were around her? Like, what the heck happened to her, and where did this giant thing come from? So that's something I'm just curious about, like what happened with that. Seeing Excalibur use lightning was like kind of eye-opening, because it was like, oh, okay, like that kind of adds to some builds, like not for Excalibur exactly, but giving certain builds the ability to have elemental properties, I saw was kind of cool. Like, if a certain character is based off of status effects and you can give them more status effect powers, therefore enhancing their synergy with the elements, I think that's pretty cool. Like if you transfer one of Saren's powers, and you can give something, poison, and then you can build on that with your weapons and with the rest of the powers of the kit, that might be really good. Like I said, there's a lot of potential in that, and I'm really interested in it. I'm just curious about longevity of that new mechanic. This derelict place I thought was pretty cool. From what they said, if it is like the derelict, or a replacement of the derelict, I think that would be really cool. 'Cause me and my friends, we loved going to the derelict, opening vaults, and once we got everything we really wanted, then we were no longer interested in it. But having it as its own area where you can actually explore, and it's not just a bunch of ships in a cluster, that's really cool. I like this idea, and they're adding more to the lore, which makes me want to play the game again. It really makes me want to reinstall the game and actually jump in, because it's just finding out like what they were saying about like the wellspring of where your powers come from. It's like, okay, this is why we fight. This is kind of one of those things where I was like, can you give us a reason to play? This is what I was talking about, like giving us a reason, to log in for more than just dealing damage and making builds. You got to have something that like ties you into the world more than just a one and done mission. And I'm really interested in this, especially with some of the things that were shown, like the clock and like this Orokin tower. It kind of makes me feel like this is the Orokin tower of the void that they're always talking about, or maybe we're getting close to that infinite tower. Because it's like they always talk about certain things. With the derelict, didn't you get? I think you got Necros from the derelict, but with the derelict, it was always like an infested kind of area, and it was like, okay, it's an infested area. There are a couple of ships that have been taken over. I always thought of the derelict as those background stories where, if you've ever read the profiles of some warframes where they have this story, like Mag has a story, and Ember has a story about a ship that went out, and the kids came back infected, or the kids came back and killed all the adults, or like no one survived on the ship. They don't know what happened once it left a certain port or a certain area of space. And that's what I always thought the derelicts were for. I thought those ships were those ships in the story, in the background stories that didn't make it back, or failed attempts at traveling or something like that. That's what I thought they were. So to have it as its own kind of world seems very interesting. And also what seems interesting is just how things work. And they mentioned vaults in the gameplay. They mentioned that the doors lead to vaults that are underground, and it's like, okay, do we need our vault keys? Are our vault keys going to be something that's more significant than just some horrible debuff that makes it hard for us to, play the game? I'm liking this idea. If that's where they're going, I'm loving this, and it will make me still want to re-download Warframe, but so far I haven't really seen anything. I think I've just grown out of Warframe, to be honest, just because it's not the type of gameplay that I'm into anymore. The fast, twitchy, really high speed movement and like just overbearing gameplay kind of turns me off. But I don't know, because like I said, I played from way back. So before, when I was playing, it was completely different, and I still have a video. I thought I deleted it, but that video is still up, of my first Warframe video that I ever made. But I like the ideas and stuff. I love where they're going. Like, I love their ambition, and I love what they're doing. It's just, to me, I just don't see anything that's like pulling me in. I still think about the old days of Warframe, and I don't want to sound like that old guy who's like, back in my day when we played Warframe. No, like, no, I'm not like trying to walk. I'm not trying to tell a story of like me walking like 100 miles to school or anything, but it was just a different game. Yeah, it was a different game. I was having a lot of fun. I don't really like the parkour. It's cool, but I prefer to run on walls like we used to. And I don't feel like we always need to like just move so fast. Like, yeah, we're ninjas. But there are so many branches outside of that. It's like, well, how are we ninjas? We don't really gather information like that we know of. We don't really do anything ninja like other than like our movements, our fighting style. There's only like 2 Warframes that can go invisible and do like stealth and stuff. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I'm not stuck on the whole ninja thing. It's just like I said before, it's just I don't feel something that's pulling me in. Like with the Division, I'll use the Division as an example. With the Division, I know what's going on. You know, there was chemical warfare. We've got I'm talking about the original Division. We've got to free New York, we got to stabilize New York and get it back to a sense of order and remove the threats so the city can go back to normal. And it's like, okay, purpose. Like, I can get down with that purpose. It's not going to keep me playing the game forever, but at least there's purpose. With Warframe, it's always like, it's so constantly evolving and changing that you never really know what you're playing. Outside of it being a slight horror game, which it definitely continues the theme of like space horror. If they focused on more of the space horror, I think I'd be able to get more into it, and that is awesome. I like how you can jump into these sentries and use them like mechs. I think that is just amazing. That is amazing. Like this is what I'm talking about, where what is Warframe's identity? It's like, now you can jump into mechs. What is this game? Like, what are we doing? What is the point? But like I said, I love their ideas. I love how they're always, pushing the envelope and rising above. But at the same time, it's like, what am I getting into? What am I playing? What am I logging in for? Why do I keep logging in? Like, I need something just to keep me focused on keep me on track, so that way I don't waver and I don't log in and go, what was I doing? And I'm just sitting there at the star chart like, what was I doing? Is there anything that I need to do that's important? And then the whole thing with content not being mandatory, like some content is not mandatory. Actually, none of it's mandatory. You play at your own discretion and at your own pace, but at the same time, like, that's there's no like I said before, like I said in another video, there's no cohesive story where it's like, play from A to B, this is what you're doing, this is why you're here in this universe, this is what's going on in the world, and then after you get to point B, if you want to get to point C, you can, and then further increase your knowledge of what's going on in the universe, why you're playing, what the next goal is, what's the next achievement, what are you trying to accomplish. Like, there's really nothing of that in Warframe, and I think that's all it's missing, is something that ties all of it together, something that just brings it all in, because even with this, and the reason why I'm getting to this part is because this is really interesting. Like, the people, this character called Mother, and the race of people, and it's like, okay, so we have this person who's a part of why our Warframes have powers. I'm curious about that. Like, now it's like, okay, now you're pulling me in. Now I want to get involved. I want to get invested. And I'm curious about some of the dialogue options that she had, which was really good on Digital Extreme's part, because I was really curious about when she said, what was it? She said something thug. And I was like, what? Like, what does she mean by that? And then like there was another option that was there, which I thought was just really interesting. I'm like, dude, this character is awesome. And I want to know more about this, like this is content that I've been looking for. This is what I need. This is what, an Orokin thug. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then, the "Are you infested?" question, which is a really good question. So like, that's really good. They skipped over two things that were really interesting that make me want to, invest in the game and jump in and do that. And this is coming out in a couple weeks. So if this is actually coming out in a couple weeks, that's a good reason to play. And then I'm scared of, is this content going to last longer than an hour? Like, is this going to be another place where we go in and we're just, it's like the Plains of Eidolon. It's got its own ecosystem. Nothing we do here changes. It's its own separate world, detached from the rest of the game. Like another mini game, for example, where we got to collect stuff and we got to build up this ecosystem and get these items that only matter here. Is it going to be another one of those separate mini game worlds, or is this going to connect everything? Is this going to be the cycle that continues content, where it's like, hey, even though you're here, type of thing, you can go here and do something and it's still related. That's what I think Warframe needs the most. And that's one thing that I've tried to put into words, but I don't think I've been able to say until now it just clicked. Like, they need like a cycle, like a world where it's like events are happening, which, they have alerts and stuff. Events are happening, but it's not do the event and move on. It should be, because you did this, which is how it was in old Warframe. Because you did this now changed. This has become affected. So like before, we used to have versus missions, like versus factions, like Grineer versus Corpus. And they still happen in the star chart, but not as much. Like not to this degree. Whoever won that faction war, that node and sometimes the entire planet would change. So like if let's say the planet was owned by the Corpus, once the Corpus were defeated by the Grineer, if the community decided that the Grineer should win, then the Grineer would take over the entire planet, and minus the boss for that planet, because if it was a Corpus planet, it would have a Corpus boss, but minus the boss, every other node would give you Grineer prizes and would give you Grineer rewards, Grineer drops. You would see Grineer enemies, and it kind of changed the star chart. Like, you kind of had to think about who you wanted to be there, because depending on which faction was there on that planet depended on the rewards that you got for doing missions. And that's something that's like there's so much potential there, where it's like, okay, if that faction won and they changed it, then they have so many bosses now. It's like a boss should come in and replace that boss, and then when it replaces that boss, it starts to affect, kind of like I'm thinking of Dynasty Warriors type games, or Koei Warriors type games, where their Empires game, it's like an army takes over an area and then it starts to branch out. Or even like the Division 2, like perfect example actually. You take over one section of Washington, and then that area that you took over, they start to send out troops to attack nearby areas, nearby cities or towns in Washington, and they start having battles. They start going at it and stuff like that. Like, Warframe needs more stuff like that, where it's unifying the star chart. It's getting you involved. It's getting you in, instead of it just being like one and done missions. Where there's a cause and effect that leads to other stuff happening. Like, even with the Lotus, I think we're all at a point now where we know that the Lotus is gone, but even though the Lotus is gone, why hasn't someone else came in to replace her, type of thing? Like, we're still doing missions where this, memory of Lotus is still giving us orders, but it's kind of weird. Like, Why is it her? Why isn't it someone else? Why hasn't someone else stepped up and gone, I'm going to lead these children, and I have a different perspective than the Lotus? Or I mean, I could talk about this forever. That's a whole nother video. But yeah. Anyway, getting back to this. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Getting back to this, the mother seems really cool, and then her husband, who's in charge of whatever device gave us our powers or continues to give us our powers, I think that's also really cool and interesting. It leads into like other things, and and the fact that she can appear in multiple places, that's cool. She can appear outside, not just in this room. She's connected through some type of tunnel or something, and she looks infested, which is interesting because the warframes are also infested. Am I right? So it's like, I wonder what the connection is and how this ties into other missions, other optional missions that were in the past. And is there going to be a structure? Is there going to be something where when the new experience comes out, it's a streamlined effect of to continue the story, do this mission, do this mission, do this mission, do this mission, and so on and so on and so on. So that way it can be a cohesive timeline of what's going on, from when you were awake to meeting the mother. What is the direct timeline that puts all this together? I feel like that would really help out the game. And also, I'm interested in these sun and moon worms. Like, they attack each other, but do they regrow or something? Is this like a constant cycle where it's like, it's nighttime, the moon worm is out, and then when the sun rises, the sun worm rises and kills the moon worm, and now it's daytime. Like, that's really cool. Like, I thought that was really cool. So like, I'm interested in this, but I'm curious the longevity, and is this going to be another isolated world? Is this going to be too many questions? I mean, we'll see in a couple of weeks. I'll definitely be paying attention to streamers. I don't know if I'll download it again. I feel like I'm way too detached from Warframe now after not playing it for a year to know what's going on. Like, I feel like I can't get into the game because I don't know what's going on. Like, I've missed so much content. I don't know if it's okay that I've missed so much content. Is it okay that I haven't done anything? Is there any requirement for this? Which I don't think they talked about. Like, is there a requirement to do these new missions? Or to go to this new place? That's something I'm interested in. And just, like, what are the requirements? Do I have to be a certain mastery level? Do I have to have done some previous mission? I don't know. But I'm definitely interested in whatever is going on here. Other than that, I do really want to play the game again. I do want to get into it, mostly because of a content creator by the name of Relentless Zen. I've been watching Relentless Zen's videos, and he just makes he makes Warframe look amazing. Like, using the like photo mode to take these high resolution like captures, and like with idols and stuff. Like, I was watching his Infinite Mag video recently, and like, I was just staring at it like this is Warframe. Like, these graphics, this clarity, this detail. I'm just like, this is Warframe now. Like, it's so beautiful. But then at the same time, it's like, but the gameplay is the same. And I like Melee. I've always said that. I like Melee more than anything. But his videos have been inspiring me to play. And with this, August 25th, I'm interested. But I'm also worried, I know Steve talked about his his problems in the past with being too ambitious and his eyes getting too big and wanting to go forward graphically and showing things that he shouldn't be showing, and pushing things that weren't ready. And it's like, okay, cool, I understand that. Like you've taken that step, and I understand it. So that's why I'm kind of just worried. Like, is this going to be is this the content I've been waiting for, or is this just more content? Is it just extra? Is it just filler? Is this going to make me want to play the game? Is this what's going to pull me back in as a veteran and go, you know what, it's time to suit back up and have some fun? Or is this going to be I'm going to watch Rob play it, or probably Magamu play it, and then I'll be like, oh, that was really nice. Yeah, it looks fun. Okay, back to what I was doing. Like, I don't know. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Tennocon. I really loved the content that they had, especially the sound design content. Oh my god. I love sound design. I'm a composer. I've been dabbling in sound design more and more, and seeing like the foliage and how they're recording stuff. And I always love their sound team, and I always say, like, I wish Digital Extremes, the sound team, would go to Game Sound Con and do a panel. If you guys don't know about Game Sound Con, it's a convention for game sound. I mean, it's pretty much self-explanatory, but a lot of industry developers and directors for composing and for sound design and sound overall, they go to this convention and they do panels, they meet up, they do mentoring. I've promoted them before in the past. I love Game Sound Con. I've met so many great people, and like, I would love to see them do a panel, because the way that they approach things is so eye-opening and it's so cool. It's not something that you see every day. There are a lot of other companies that do really cool things too. Like NetherRealm Games, they do a lot of awesome sound design for Mortal Kombat. But they're kind of open about it a little bit more. They show it a lot more often than Digital Extremes. I know they're in Canada and NetherRealm Games is in California, but and Game Sound Con is in California sometimes, and it also goes to New York. But yeah, I really love that. The art panel was really awesome. Digital Extremes does amazing things. I don't want to sound like one of those people who's just like, oh, I hate this game and blah blah blah. And like, no, I don't hate Warframe. I'm just a veteran. I'm just a veteran. I've been playing the game for like over 5 years. I played it back when it was very different, when there was a stamina bar and you couldn't equip a melee weapon. You just had to like press a button to swing it, but you would automatically, still use your sword. Like your gun was your actual primary, and your secondary, and your melee weapon was just for close range slash, put back, shoot. And I still love Warframe. I still want to see it grow. I just don't know what this game is anymore. Like, before I knew what the game was, it was an action space horror shooter. Where you could run on walls and assassinate things, and like, you were doing things. We were going into the void. We were doing derelict runs. We were unlocking warframes. We were doing story event missions monthly, and it was explaining more about the lore and Earth and the war and stuff and what was going on in the past. And now Warframe is like I have no clue what this game is anymore. And I think that's just it. It's just like, what's Warframe's identity? Like, I know it's still space horror, because horror and space have not changed from Warframe at all. But at the same time, what else? What else? There's still that sci-fi aspect. And then there's so many different Warframes now. And then now that we've gotten into how Warframes came to be, and who the children are, and who our operators are, and all these other lore breaking things, where it's like, wow, okay, this is now new lore. So this is this is what happened. This is who this character is, and this is who the Lotus is, and this is who the Stalker is, and stuff like that. It's like, okay, so then what is Warframe now? And that's always my question. What is Warframe now? And what's the state of the universe? You know, how does the cycle going? How is the world turning? You know, what's making this universe alive? You know, other than just random places like Plains of Eidolon where stuff is happening, but it doesn't affect anything outside of Earth. And then you've got the other world. I forgot what it was. The other open world like Plains of Eidolon where, you know, stuff's going on there, but it's not affecting anything outside of its space. You know, like if things aren't happening outside of these places in the surrounding areas, then they're isolated. And every time you get into a game mechanic that's isolated with Warframe, it feels like you're playing a completely different game with the same characters. So it feels like you're playing a spin-off, you know, and that's the sad part, because I really wish they would bring it all together. And there's got to be a way to do it. I mean, it's not an easy task. It's not an easy, you know, challenge, but there's got to be a way to bring everything together, because I feel like that's what they're missing. You know, like if you look, I hate to compare Destiny and Warframe, but if you look at Destiny, it kind of follows the template of, this is our story. You know, this is our story. This is our world. This is our universe. This is how it all fits into one universe. This is how it fits into one package. That way you never feel like you're being left out. You know, if you go to this world, you know what's going on in that world, and it's never ending, you know. But it does branch out where like one boss is connected to another boss somewhere else, you know, and it's like, oh, well, you know, you're traveling to these places via the story to figure out what's going on. And you have certain factions that are invading other planets. So it's not like, oh, you know, this is just something separate. You always feel like you're involved in something. And that's something I love about Destiny, is that no matter what planet you go to, no matter what story mission you do, no matter what raid you do, or whatever content you decide to get in, it drops you into that world. So you know your environment, you know what's going on. It hasn't changed. This is the ever-going war of this area, and anytime you jump in, you can jump in and get right to work. You know, it's like, bam, I'm here. Let's go do some stuff. Let's go complete some objectives. Let's go complete some missions. Let's go gather some stuff. You know, it's like, it's the way it's structured where it keeps you going. And that's the problem that I have with Warframe. It doesn't keep you going. It's like I went in, did a mission, I'm out, and that's it. You know, and now there are endless missions. You know, you can't just keep going, but it's not the same. You know, it's not the same. There's something that's just not gelling with the way their structure is. And the more they move towards like these open area, open world type of planets, it kind of just feels like there are too many planets, too many one-offs, too much separation from the game overall, from the universe, where, you know, it's not the same. Like, I think one thing that kind of pulls you in about Destiny is the fact that when you drop in, there are those world events, you know, where everyone gets involved. Everybody's running around together. Everybody's, you know, shooting stuff. Everybody's, you know, gathering stuff, you know, to a certain extent, to where, you know, missions start. But even when you jump into a mission, instead of being loaded onto a ship like in Warframe where you're separated, you go to that open world planet and you're dropped in. And it's like, if you want to continue the mission, go to this waypoint, you know, way out there, and then you go through this area that separates you from the open world. And I think that is something that Warframe probably needs, but that's kind of like, it's kind of hard to do because Warframe, because of the gameplay, it's so fast, it's so twitchy. I don't know if they could really handle having so many players together in one space doing missions. Like, I know they've done raids before and they've done big, you know, large scale battles, but having 30 Warframes loaded into the Plains of Eidolon all at once, and then you having to go and do missions, you having to go and do stuff. It's like, could the game really handle that? With Destiny, it's a shooter, so you don't have overbearing powers. You don't have powers that like take over whole areas and stuff like that. Whereas in Warframe, you have people who have powers that are so vast they can control like a good 100 meters plus, or almost the size of a football field. So it's like, if you've got 200 yards of power, you're pretty much taking over a mission by yourself. And I don't know. I think that's a balancing thing, but I don't know. I've gone on too long. This is almost 45 minutes. So, all right. Tennocon 2020, love it. I just need to do another video and just speak my mind, but I'm loving what I see from Tennocon. I'm interested. I'm excited. I'm curious. I'm worried. I'm emotionally invested. I think that's the best way to put it. I'm emotionally invested again in Warframe, and I definitely say kudos, Digital Extremes, and good job. You guys are doing a lot of amazing things, and I definitely want to see the game grow. I want to see it expand, and I'm curious as to where it's going, because this is no longer the game that I used to play back in like 2015, 2016. You're even 2012, like 2013 back then. It's no longer the game, but it's looking pretty cool. All right, so sorry for the long video. I know I got distracted. I really got distracted. But yeah, I'm still passionate about this game, and you can tell. I so much emotion here for this game. But yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna stop holding you guys up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, peace.